Hi, my name's Dale Raditz, and I teach ceramics and sculpture at Elgin Community College, Elgin, Illinois. I'm going to be your instructor for this beginning course called Ceramics 1. The purpose of this course is to introduce you to basic forming techniques and the properties of firing and just in general getting through the process completely. We're going to work with pinch coil, slab, press molding, some slip casting, including mold making, and there'll be some built-in options towards the end of the course that will allow you to either throw in the potter's wheel or continue hand building so that you can complete this course at home without the help of another facility.
I'm at Crystal Springs now, and we're at one of the ponds on the farm here, looking down at the spring water itself and where it bubbles up out of the ground. This is Lake Superior water that comes underground through bedrock, and all that distance bringing residue with it. In our case, it looks as though it's mostly sand, but in some cases the water goes through clay beds and delivers very fine silty clay. I don't believe we have any of that here though, and I'm going to dig down in here and see if I can get some of this up for you. Yeah, okay. And hopefully you'll be able to see that this is sand. It is very fine sand, and it's yellowish looking. It's probably mixed with a lot of foreign matter and perhaps limestone pieces. Very sandy. So this isn't going to do for us. So let's move on down to the creek flow on this and see if we can find some clay down there. We're coming down to the spring, or the stream that's fed by the spring, and noticing is that there are ripples on the spring bottom, and that's a good indication to me that that's very fine silty material, and that could be very plastic. However, I wouldn't really expect that too much here because the soil is so sandy. I have a feeling there may be too much sand in it, but let's take a check on it so we can get in here without getting too wet. Just reach down. Yeah, I can feel lots of sand, and there's lots of particles of stone in this. And let me see if I can show you some of that a little better. Yeah, you can see those little black stones and things that probably would not be very good. And this is almost all sand now. So this might work as a tempering ingredient for a clay body, but probably wouldn't work by itself. So let's carry on our search a little farther and head up a couple of the ravines and see what we can find up there. We've been walking these ravines for quite a while now without a whole lot of luck, and we're going to come back to a place that I'd looked at before, and I didn't think the quality of the clay that I found here was that good because the quantity of sand in it was a little bit more than I wanted, but I think it's plastic enough for our purposes, so we're going to use this. Now you can see that this ravine flows quite heavily at times because it's ripped out a good section of this embankment, and you can see up in this area that there's lots of roots and things hanging down, and there's probably an awful lot of organic matter in that wouldn't be real good for our purposes. We have another layer here of rock that's 3 feet under the main surface, and then as I dug before, I found some clay that, again, very sandy, but it's of a different color, and I think you can see that. And it does have some clay in it, and I think it's going to work. One of the tests you can use in the field to determine whether your clay is adequate or not, at least for construction purposes, is a test for plasticity. And this isn't as wet as it should be, so I'm going to let me see if I can get some that's just, yeah, there we go. Okay, the test is just to roll the clay into a coil about the thickness of a pencil, and if you can wrap that around your finger without it cracking or breaking, then you've got clay that's plastic enough to construct with. Now you can see that this is bending, but it does break a little, so it's not as plastic as we'd really like to have, but it's adequate for the hand building that we're going to be doing. So I think I'm going to go ahead and dig out about 5 pounds of this and take it back to the farm And we'll make some pots out of it, and the next test for it is the firing. So let's do that, and we'll determine whether or not this is usable or not.
And it does behave a little differently than our other clays, and I think this is something you're going to find with all clays, that they do not behave the same way. They do not react to pressure the same way. And I am going to get some surface cracks, and I think you can see them developing already up in here and here, and that's going to take some work to get those out. So maybe I'll just form it a little slower. Again, what this clay needs for forming is a plasticizer, in the form of ball clay preferably. You can find that in the field, and a good indication for that is looking at dry clays, particularly those that you might find in an old slow-moving creek bed or in a dried-up pond bed. You'll notice sometimes that there'll be like plates of earth that have huge cracks in them that actually buckle up, and that's a good indication of a plastic clay, because the more plastic the clay, the more it shrinks. So consequently, when that dry clay or that moist clay dries, it shrinks and forms those large crack patterns. So we couldn't find any of that here, but you might want to look for that sometime when you're out in the field.